Poisoned rivers and lakes. Rivers and lakes are home to many animals, but they are often polluted with garbage and chemicals. Luckily, there are ways to stop this. This book was written by Ellen Lawrence. Poisoned Rivers and Lakes. A polluted home. A swan searches for plants and insects to eat in a river. However, it's hard for the bird to find food. That's because there's so much trash in the water. Trash isn't the only pollution that's spoiling the swan's river home. The water also contains other pollution that can't even be seen. Caption: Garbage in a stream, river, or lake might include food containers, cans, and plastic bottles. Large items such as tires and supermarket carts sometimes end up in the water as well. Caption: A swan looking for food in a river. Caption: What kinds of trash can you see in this picture? How do you think the trash got into the water? Harmful trash. How does trash get into streams, rivers, and lakes? Sometimes people dump it into the water or drop it from a boat. Other times people leave litter on the ground and the wind blows it into the water. Fish, birds, and other animals often eat the trash because they think it's food. Eating garbage can make animals very sick and even kill them. Caption: Storm drain. Caption: Rain can wash trash left on the street down a storm drain. Then the trash is carried by rainwater through underground pipes into a stream, river, or lake. Caption: Animals can also get tangled in trash. Caption: Garbage dumped near a river. Poisonous water. Chemicals are another type of pollution that can harm rivers and lakes. Sometimes factories dump chemicals, such as those used to make paint and glue, into rivers. If animals swallow this polluted water, they can be poisoned. Caption: Sometimes people pour oil and harmful chemicals down storm drains. These poisonous liquids can end up in streams, rivers, and lakes. Caption: Fish killed by chemicals in a river. Oh, it breaks my heart to see that. Chemicals from farms. Chemicals used to help crops grow can also end up in rivers and lakes. After the chemicals are sprayed onto crops, they soak into the ground. Then they can trickle into nearby streams, rivers, and lakes. In the water, these chemicals help tiny living things called algae grow. More algae grow until a thick layer of slime called an algae bloom covers the water. Unfortunately, the algae can cause a river great harm. How do chemicals from farms end up in rivers? Caption: Farmers also use chemicals to kill weeds and insects that damage their crops. If these chemicals get into streams or rivers, they may kill animals and plants. All right, well, let's look at the steps for how do chemicals from farms end up in rivers. Number 1, a tractor sprays chemicals onto crops. There it is. Number 2, some of the chemicals are washed by rain into a stream or river. Some of the chemicals soak into the ground. Number 3, chemicals that soak into the ground mix with water in the soil and eventually flow into a river. 4, a layer of slime called an algae bloom grows on top of the river. Dangerous slime. An algae bloom is harmful to plants and animals in the river. This slime blocks out sunlight that underwater plants need to grow. If the plants die, animals that eat the plants won't have food. Algae blooms can also use up all the oxygen in the water. Then there is no oxygen left for fish and other underwater animals to breathe. Caption: a dead fish floating in algae. Caption: Animals that live on land use lungs to breathe oxygen from the air. Underwater animals, such as fish, use body parts called gills to breathe oxygen that's in the water. Caption: A river turned green by an algae bloom. Caption: Pollution in rivers can end up in the ocean. How do you think this happens? From stream to ocean. Pollution in streams and rivers can reach the ocean. How? A person might dump trash or chemicals into a small stream. The stream then flows into a larger river, bringing the pollution with it. Once the pollution is in a river, it will be carried out to sea. That's because all rivers eventually flow into the ocean. Caption: A crab covered in oil. Caption: Just like animals that live in rivers and lakes, ocean animals, such as fish, turtles, crabs, and seabirds, can be harmed by trash, chemicals, and oil that get into the water. Caption: A sea turtle surrounded by trash. Stop the pollution! Streams, rivers, and lakes are home to thousands of kinds of animals and plants. They are also places where people swim, boat, and fish. So it's important for people to protect these places. Farmers should stop using harmful chemicals on their crops. Factories should never dump chemicals into rivers or lakes. Caption: A water treatment plant. Caption: Much of the water that people drink comes from rivers and lakes. The water is purified or cleaned at water treatment plants, so it is safe to drink. Caption: A beaver family living in a river. River cleanup. Some people help clean up dirty rivers. Like many rivers, the Iowa River gets polluted with lots of trash. Once every year, volunteers in Iowa spend a day removing trash from the water. Some volunteers paddle along the river collecting trash in boats. The trash is then recycled or taken to a landfill. Caption: During the 2013 Iowa River cleanup, volunteers removed 200 old tires from the water. The total amount of trash collected weighed as much as 2 elephants. Caption: Volunteers picking up trash in the Iowa River. Caption: What can you do to help keep rivers and lakes safe from pollution? That reminds me of the Friends of the Rappahannock. They organize river cleanups in our community to help clean up the Rappahannock River and the surrounding areas. Everyone can help. There are many ways to help keep streams, rivers, and lakes clean. For example, never drop trash on the ground. The trash could be washed down a storm drain or get blown into a river or lake. Being careful with your trash keeps rivers, lakes, and even oceans clean for the future. Caption: Some people help keep rivers clean by painting signs near storm drains. The signs tell people not to dump chemicals or other pollution into the drains. What can you do? Here are some ways to stop pollution from getting into rivers and lakes. Recycle your trash. If you visit a river or lake, take your trash home and recycle it or throw it in the garbage. Put paper, plastic bottles, aluminum cans, and glass bottles and jars into a recycling bin. The items will be taken to special factories where they will be turned into new items. Caption: Crushed plastic bottles at a recycling factory. Stop chemical pollution. Tell adults to never pour paint or oil down storm drains. You can also tell adults not to use chemicals to kill weeds in their yards. Just as on farms, these chemicals can soak into the ground, and they might find their way into streams or lakes. Science Lab. Be a clean water champion. Animals, plants, and people need clean water to live and stay healthy. However, many rivers, lakes, and oceans are being damaged by pollution. Make a poster to tell your friends and family about this problem. Your poster can also tell people what they can do to help. You will need construction paper, paint, colored pencils or markers, scissors, glue, pictures from old magazines, or printed from the internet. or you can just draw them. Caption, you can draw pictures on your poster. Caption, you can cut out pictures from old magazines. Or caption, ask an adult to help you find pictures online and print them. Here's an example. Stop polluting our water. Pollution damages rivers, lakes, and oceans. Animals eat plastic trash and die. Chemicals poison animals. Throw your trash away or recycle it. Don't drop it where it could end up in a river. Never pour paint or oil down a storm drain. Thank you for reading this awesome story with me. So even though there's a lot of ways that water can be polluted, people can clean it up and prevent that pollution from happening.